Rod, I've got a fantastic idea. I was out shopping the other day and I found these old broken down pool cues. Initially I thought to myself, we could fix these up, you know, make something of them. But then I thought, let's go one step further and make a pool table. How often do we get to play pool?
Can't remember the last time. When do we ever go to the pub?
Yeah, we don't even get time to, do we? So I thought, why not make one? Because most people pull off the huge big things, but you know, there isn't that much to them.
No, actually, if you broke it down into simple stages, it's not really that difficult at all.
Exactly. Yeah, and imagine how much they cost as well to buy. I mean, it's quite basic. We create ourselves a top, okay, and generally pretty similar to a table. We've got to have 4 good size legs on it, okay, and down here, and then the leg going up there, and then for sort of a nice fancy sturdy frame around the top.
That's the thing, it's got to be very rigid, isn't it? Very solid base.
And it's got to look the part as well, right? Right, well, let's get on with it. Well, we've got a good size length of 3x3 here. That should be sufficient for the legs.
Oh, nice one, Craig.
Let's chop this up.
This out of the road for you.
We'll chop this up into 4 equal sizes. At this point, we don't necessarily need to get the exact size. We go about 3 foot on each leg, eh?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Rod. What we need to do now is to work out a way. These acting as the legs. We want to work out a way how to house a side panel on there.
Well, the 6B one that you've chosen for that piece there, if you cut shoulder on so that it sits onto it.
That's right. And that'll transfer all the weight down there, won't it? So if I mark up on here. I've marked up on the top of the leg here to create a shoulder joint. What I want to do is cut out 2 sections of the top of the leg. You can imagine when all 4 legs are here, we've got a frame going around the top. Now 2 sections of the frame has got to sit on the one leg. Now if you imagine the whole tabletop on there, plus an adult leaning on it, playing the game, it's going to transfer a lot of weight down that leg. So what we do is we cut out these sections and the actual frame sits onto them. It just saves fixing it into the 2 sides. Rod, if you want to start cutting them out for me, I'll get the next one marked.
If you can just clean that up for me with the chisel.
Right.
That'd be cracking, thank you.
As you can see what Rod's done there, he's only cut down generally half the way of the wood. You can finish that off by just gently tapping it and then just final touches with a chisel. At this point, it doesn't matter if this joint's quite messy, because it's going to be covered by the frame that goes around the side.
I think also, Craig, if we just like get the router bit, pop it into the router, say with the radius cutter, we could pop a couple of flutes in there just to dress it up, tart the thing up a bit.
Yeah, give it a nice feature, wouldn't it? I'll get you a radius one. You can also get a variety of different shapes and sizes router pieces, and what this can create is nice patterns, both internally on the leg, and you can even do them along the sides on here, create a nice bullnose edge. We're not going to because we don't want to reduce any strength in the leg. It's always an idea for shelves and things like that. Now, deciding where you want the decorative pattern is quite important. You don't want it going all the way to the top and you don't want it going right to the bottom, because you remember you might be cutting a bit off there. So what I would suggest is go down about 100 millimetres and then probably about 570 there. And that way, if we do cut any off, we'll have an equal gap on top and bottom of that.
There you go, last one.
Thanks, Rod. Now cut all 4 legs down to the suitable size for ourselves. You can vary that depending on whether you're making it for a child or an adult. But the next stage is we've got to make the outer frame for it. So I can go back to my drawing board, Rod.
Aye.
What we need to do is distinguish. The actual tabletop itself is going to be a fraction bigger than the actual frame. So if we say our frame is about 5 foot by 8 inches in length and width, 2 foot by 8 inches.
Oh, it's going to make like a 3x6 table then.
That's right, yeah, and that's suitable enough for my living room anyway.
Right, so if we cut these on a mitre so that it covers that corner, so it's the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's a 45-degree mitre, and the outside of that cut is going to be the 2'8" and
yes,
the
please,
5'8". that. Excellent.
We've now got all the four sides mounted at a 45-degree angle. That'll allow us to create a perfect rectangular shape. We can now fix our legs to it. And now at this point, you make sure your frame section sits very firmly on the shoulder you cut earlier. And you've also got to get that 45-degree angle that we mounted directly in that corner, so it marries up nicely with the nice section. We'll put a little bit of glue on there, and then what I'm going to do is screw this from the opposite side here, so we don't actually see any screw holes. Do you just want to hold that in line for me? Again, I'll pop a little pilot hole in it. The last thing we want is the wood to split. Using a couple of inch screws on there so they go right through that back leg and just grip nicely into the front frame. Put a couple in there, Rod will be ample. What we'll do now is do the two opposite legs in the back section of here, put the back frame on it, and then once we've got them in position, we'll take away the benches and put the two side ones on. You don't listen to a word I say, do you, Rod?
Pardon?
Happy with that, Rod?
Yeah, smashing.
Just like the opposite side, you check that it fits, remove it, apply your glue to the both sides. Again, putting plenty of that on there. You're not going to see this joint, and any that does ooze out the front, you can always sand it down once it's dry. Brilliant. And there we have a frame for a pool table. The legs and the frame are now completed. Now, before we put the top on, Rod's been making some little blocks on here.
Yeah, there's just offcuts of timber, Craig. It doesn't actually matter about the size. I've just got two holes to fix it to the side, one hole to screw it up to the top. I've gone all the way around, just gluing those on so I can fix up the top.
Excellent. Right, Rod, will you give us a lift at this tabletop?
Yeah, sure can do.
Oh. Wow, oh, it's heavy. Okay, pop them on.
Very heavy, Craig.
Good. What we're using for our tabletop here, we've got 25mm MDF, which is not your standard size you buy off the shelves, usually about 18mm, but you can order it. Now, we were originally going to use slate, but we found slate was extremely expensive, very hard to cut, and very heavy as well.
And when you talk about cutting, when you're cutting on MDF, you've got to be very, very careful, because the dust is very fine, very noxious. You need a good mass, Craig.
And this is the one that I use when I'm cutting MDF. You can buy these sheets in an 8x4 size, it's a standard size, but what we did was ask our suppliers to cut it down 3 foot by 6. Because it was so heavy, it was easier for us to handle. Our next stage, Rod, is we need to distinguish where we want the pockets and what size we want the pockets. So if you'd be kind enough to get the measurements for that centre, it's 6 foot.
So dead on 3.
By 3. And then, what better way to decide the exact size of the pockets is to buy your balls first. And what we're going to do is just place it. And what I'd rather do is cut it a little bit small first, because you can always take a little bit off if it's not quite right. You put that in the dead centre and simply use it as a template. Roll around it, like that. And we'll do this on all 4 corners, and again on the opposite side.
Yeah,
if you want to start marking out for me, and I'll get ready to cut it. How I'm going to cut this is, I'm going to be using a jigsaw. But a jigsaw, a standard one, has a flat plate on here, so the blade will always cut at 90 degrees. What I want to do is just adjust that fraction, just so when the ball drops, it actually just slips right down there. So it's got a little small Allen key. You simply loosen one of the connections, it's usually in the base. That's it. And what this does, it allows that plate to actually go to one side. What I want to do is just take off just a couple of millimetres out.
Hey Craig, that's really starting to take a good shape now, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm quite pleased with it. It looks quite good. Ideally, I'd like to get a hoover and hoover up all these bits of dust just so it's safe to use without the mask. But we've got to start making the walls for the side of this. And what I've got here is some planed up 4x2. What I want to try and do, Rod, is try and create a small wall area just for the side of the table there.
Well, in that case, Craig, while we've been doing a bit of routing, should we put a bit of detail on it? Because that's the bit you're going to see, isn't it?
That's right, then. What have we done on the legs?
Yeah,
Okay.
similar, yeah.
Legs. Great. I initially cut the walls of the pool table oversized, so now Rod's routed the nice decorative groove in there. We marked them up by putting them from corner to corner of each pocket and then cut them down to size. And that's the basics of a pool table. At this stage, we need to create some cushions for the walls of the table. What we've got here is just a standard 2x2 off the shelf. What do you think, Rod? You sort of cut that down the centre.
Split it down the middle and give it sort of 20mm either side, because it's about 45 finished, isn't it?
But the height I'm actually concerned about is probably want to stand at about just over half the height of your ball.
Just over that, yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit over half your height
Oh,
of your
stop
ball.
the ball pinging up.
That's right.
Just hit the ball
Once
correctly.
we've got that cut, we then got some rubber, which we're going to be gluing along the sides. That'll help the ball sort of bounce off when it hits that.
Okay.
So if we get these marked up, Rod,
Yeah.
and we can make a start on that. Excellent. Still got it?
Yeah. Just looking at that corner, right, Craig, when it goes in, we've got to have to round that off a bit, aren't we?
Of course, yeah, because if you imagine
Walk and roll in.
the ball played along the cushion, if that was chamfered off, just simply drop into the pocket, wouldn't it?
That's cracking, yeah. Fair.
Well, if you cut it at 45, and then what I'll do is just round it off with the
With the sander.
sander.
Excellent.
What I've got here is a standard belt sander, and I've put myself a little clamp, which is clamped down to the desk, which simply holds that in place. What I'm going to do is just grind off those edges. Great, well, the next stage is to apply this rubber section on here. What we're going to use is a high impact contact adhesive. Twist one out. Give it a little stir up, get some on there. The actual rubber we're using, as you can see, it's got a little section just sort of routed out there. What this does is it allows, once the actual ball hits it, it will bounce it and keep it onto the table and not sort of ricochet off over the top.
This is going to be quite difficult, actually, isn't it? Because with the contact adhesive, once it's stuck, it's stuck.
You only get one chance with it, yeah.
Okay.
Now you must leave the adhesive for at least 20 minutes before you start to release the clamps. What we need to do is trim off this little bit of excess rubber on here. I mean, you can use various things. Scissors will cut it off, a trimming knife, but I find it probably easier using a hacksaw blade. Rod, if you just jump around one side,
There, yeah.
you hold them. I want to sort of chamfer that down, just a fraction there. And now we're ready to apply the materials. And what we've got is this green baize material, and this is purposely designed for snooker and pool tables. So if we roll this out, Rod,
Yeah.
very easy to use. It can easily be cut with a pair of scissors. You get the right length.
We need. Yeah.
And move it that way. That's the one. And again, like the woods and the rubber, we want to cut this oversized, so we can always trim it off, can't we? What we want to do is tack this to the back end of it on there. Now we don't necessarily have to be very neat, because this particular area here is going to be covered, and when it's actually fixed to the walls of the table, you're not going to see it. So we pull it over to there, Rod, for me.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to get a little small stapler. I'll staple one end here first, and then if you just pull it tighter down in there, that's it. That'll stay there then. If you get a trimming knife, you'll probably just trim off any of that excess. And then we can sort of see where we're going a little bit more with that. on that corner there.
This is a bit like wrapping Christmas presents. The first one's not going to be that good, but as you go along, you're going to get better and better.
Well, we've got 6 sides to do, so by the time we get to the last one, it should be perfect. Well, Rod, we finally got these all finished. I think they're ready to be mounted on the table.
One more thing, Craig, we've got to put the bays on the table as well.
Oh, of course. Probably wouldn't get away with putting green paint on there, would we?
Not really.
Okay, fight it over. At this point, you've got to be extremely careful and really take your time. It's very important that you get the material pulled across and stretched as far and as tight as you can. Don't worry about any little small creases in there because they'll always iron out at the end. But what I'm going to do to start with is pull it down about 1 inch over on the both sides and start with the centre, just pulling it underneath there. I'm going to get the first staple in it. Now the way I've set this stapler, I don't actually want those staples to go all the way in because I may need to adjust some of them a little bit later. Now you come to the one end, getting someone to pull it at the opposite end. That goes tight as it can go, Rod.
Yeah.
And then come to the opposite end. When you've finished and you're quite happy that you've got no creases in it at all, you just get yourself a little hammer, just finish them tacks off.
Could you iron it when you're finished?
Oh yeah, no problem at all. Once it's down, you know, it'll sort of settle down as well, but you can always run an iron over it.
Can I give you a couple of shirts of mine?
No, thanks. I'm no good at doing shirts. Oh, just in time, we're out of ammo. And at that stage, we've got all the surrounding edges fixed into place. The next aim is we've got to do the corners. But first, I must get armed up. Now, the base is now finished over the entire table. We've tucked it really tight around them pockets. So the next stage is to start fitting the cushions. Now, what we want to do is actually mount them directly onto the top of the table. But we need to drill through that and fix into the sides of this MDF. Now, remember, that's only 25 millimetres. But it's a bit of a shoot in the dark if you just drill into that. So what we do is we turn it over this side, and along here, we want to measure about 25 millimetres and then drill in the centre of it. And by drilling them from the inside, I'll go all the way through, so the holes will actually pop through on the outside. So when that's mounted onto the side of the table, we can clearly see we're going to get the dead centre of the board. But on this part here, we need the screw to be countersunk in there. So it's very important when you drill your pilot holes, use a little countersink on the end, and what that'll do is just eat into the actual wood, so when the screw screws in tightly, it will go beyond the face of the wood. You want to hold in place for us then, Ross?
Yes, we can.
And once you've screwed them in all the way, all you need is a little bit of filler on there, let it dry, sand it down, and it's ready. Now the cushions are firmly fixed all the way around the table. The next stage is we've got to put on the pockets. There you go, Rod. Smashing them out. Now I've picked these up from a sports shop. It's not easy than trying to make them yourself. And what we've got is 4 angles for all 4 corners, and then we've got 2 for the centre pockets. And these are really easy to fit. All you've generally got to do is pop them into the corner there and screw them in.
Yeah.
Oh, great, Rod. I'm just so down to play.
But there's one other thing.
Hey, that's cheating.
We haven't quite finished.
It's got to be fixed down, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Of course. We've put the side walls on. What we've done is increased the overhang on this. So we started off with 2 inches. It's now gone practically to 4 inches because we've used a 4x2 on the sides here. Ready to fix in?
Yeah.
Whoa, Rod, you've gone through.
Oh.
No, I'm only joking. I'm only joking, but it's very important at this point to gauge what size screws you're putting in the underside of the table. The last thing you want at this stage is a screw popping through. I was only joking, mate.
Take my heart going, mate.
Rod, I've got a great way of finding the centre of here because I'm pretty sure, not positive, but pretty sure the black has got to go in the centre of all 4 pockets to be able to house the triangle around. And also on this side, where we want to put the white spot and the semicircle and the line. Okay, and what I've got is It's just this little chalk line. What it is you hook that over there in the centre of the pocket. And I'm going to put that to the centre of the pocket, just hold it quite tightly, and then I twang that to a straight line.
Yeah.
You go to that one.
Go to this one, yeah.
I think I've a bit overdone it with the chalk though. Good job it'll hoover up. And then by twanging that little cross there, I'm going to place the black on there, and that's where we can use our triangle around and do the same again, sitting in that middle pocket.
This one, yeah.
And then putting a little mark there. Do you know what? Almost forgot the reason why we're making this. I've got to fix up them pool cues.
To play
We have, haven't we? Wait. What we need to do, Rod, is fix new tips to these.
Yeah.
So if you'd be kind enough to just cut all them off right to where the broken edge is.
Yeah.
I'll fix them. But in the meantime, the mess I've made on this pool table, I better hoover it up.
Have you got some tips for them?
Yep, got some tips here.
PG?
Tiniest little bit on there. And there we have a homemade pool table. All you need to do though on this bare wood is give it a couple of coats of hard wearing varnish. What you want is a nice durable surface on there. Give us that white ball.
Break?
Prepare to be beaten. One's down.
Oh.
What was it, a stripe or a spot?
It was the black.
It was a black. Was it a stripe or a spot?
Thank you.
Oh, the white went in. Yes, that's how you play pool. 1-0.
We can't leave it there. Let's get this series really going with a couple more episodes, starting with Craig's take on a corner cabinet after the break.